Hello, Contrarians listeners, Contrarians watchers, Contrarians subscribers. Here we are. This is another dual QVR. We are, I guess, starting a new season of dual QVRs. This is, you know, we stopped officially with Ravenous. That was the end point of the patron takeover, and now this is just us making dual QVRs a thing that our top tier patrons get to request. So
Yeah.
Ben Murray, Filmbusters Ben, he gave us this movie, Glengarry Glen Ross. First time watch for Alex.
hmm
Second time watch for me. It's I've seen it a long time ago, and I know like some of the notable aspects of it. Have you heard of Always Be Closing, Alex?
Yeah. And
The
I guess my knowledge of it comes from there was an SNL skit like 15 years ago, and Alec Baldwin hosted that. It was like a recreation of his famous scene in this when
okay,
he's speaking to Santa's workshop to the elves about how they need to work faster, and ABC is always be cobbling.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that. No, I wish I had, but that's a big thing. And then it has a cast
Oh
of
yeah.
all stars, so that's another thing. And if I am not mistaken, it's I know it's written by David Mamet, but I don't know if
hmm
it's directed by him.
Directed by James Foley, who we talked about in our Dunstan Checks In episode just by proxy with The Chamber, the Chris O'Donnell movie, because Faye Dunaway was in that.
That's right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
everything is connected. Hollywood
That's
is
right.
this small world. So this is how long? It's not even 2 hours, right?
No, it's an hour 40.
Hour 40. Okay, so we're gonna do 50 minutes. Then we'll come back, tell you how it's going, and then we'll do the other half. I honestly don't remember much. Like I said, I remember the cast, I remember the Baldwin speech, and I know a couple like things. This is yet another movie starring Christopher Plummer that Ben
hmm
has assigned us. He gave us a negotiator for the patron feed. What was it, last year maybe? And now he's back.
Just a big Plummer fan, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, we got PACINO, Lemmon. Uh, who else is in there? There's somebody that's always yelling at Christopher Plummer. It might be PACINO.
Alan Arkin's in
Alan
this.
Arkin. Yeah,
Ed Harris.
yeah.
So
You may notice not a single
murder,
actress.
murderer's row here. Well, 1992 was a different time, Julio.
And yet, no, that's different. Not so different from the 1800s when Ravenous took place.
Yeah.
Also, all men. That's right. If they did Glengarry Glen Ross today, I'm sure there'll be an even mix of all sexual preferences and all genders. So, with that in mind, we're gonna go start this movie, and when we come back, Alex, I think that they sell houses or uh, they're salesmen. That's all I remember. So,
I guess we'll find out.
yeah. But stay tuned. We'll be back in 50 minutes. 50 minutes for us. For you, it'll be just a couple seconds. So we'll see you in a minute.
Are you talking to me?
When I talk to the police, I get nervous.
You know who doesn't?
Oh, who?
Thieves.
What's your name?
Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Ed Harris, Alan Arkin, Glengarry Glen Ross.
This is how we keep score, booby.
And we are back. Alex, you got the leads? You got the leads?
I think I'm gonna con Alan Arkin into breaking in and stealing them tonight.
Who's going to steal the leads?
I guess that's the plan that we're at right now. But who was it? Shelley, for $50 a pop, he can get you some hooked up too.
Well, no. That's not Shelley. Shelley almost bought them for $50 a pop.
Oh, I'm sorry. Christopher Plummer was selling them for $50
Christopher
a
Plummer,
pop.
whatever his name is. Yeah. You know who doesn't care about leads? Roma. Roma is just chilling. No pressure there.
He's like the conscience of this movie. We kind of reoccurringly cut back to him, and he's just bestowing wisdom of life upon us.
Everybody else is like they have the company breathing down their necks, and Pacino is like in a separate movie. He's just having a good time talking to Jonathan Pryce.
He's his character from Righteous Kill. Like when we first meet him, he's just kind of there and like, hey, this is me now. That's that guy's name, Jonathan Price. I was trying to figure out who that was he was talking to. Already recognize Bruce Altman is the dude who Shelley goes to his house and tries to tell him, and he basically kicks him out. That's he's the I always, unfortunately for him, I'll always remember him as the pedophile from Running Scared. But
Oh,
he also is he plays Jonah Hill's dad in The Sitter.
career spanning a
The
wide
two
range of
roles I'm sure
performances.
he is most proud of.
Yes. And he
Uh,
got to kick Jack Lemmon out to the curb in the rain.
He did. Yeah, this movie's so rainy. Right when we got to the 50-minute mark, the sun came out, but it's been a
Yeah.
torrential downpour thus far.
It's like the perfect, like right midpoint.
I thought so too.
It just goes to, it's all night, and now it's going to be today. This is kind of what I remembered about the movie. I don't remember where it all ends up, and the things that I remember more specifically, I'm not going to say because you haven't seen it yet. But
Yeah.
but the just constant non-stop talking from everybody. I was like, yeah, Glengarry Glen Ross is like,
yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty clear this is a play.
yep.
The settings are kind of inconsequential to like the dialogue at hand. So far, it's just been the inside of their office, a house, a telephone booth, and a
Chinese
bar.
restaurant.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Let's get Baldwin out of the way first, because that's basically the opening, and that's something that you knew, and that's something that I remember. The always be closing speech, just based on what we've seen so far. Do you think? Because this is my fear. Do you think that the movie peaked with Baldwin? Like he came on so strong that now like none of these guys are gonna like rise up to that level?
I'm pretty interested in Ed Harris and Alan Arkin and how their character story is going to pan out here. I just think that's like, again, coming from having the knowledge of it being a play, that makes a lot of sense. That like that opening scene is so powerful and commanding of like really grabbing the audience's attention, which makes sense, in the theater, but also the movie too. Michael Scott, sex. Now that I have your attention, it's a very intense tension grabber, like I said, and it immediately gives stakes to the characters involved in the movie at hand. So I thought it's obviously it's a little, as far as aging, it's a little brooding with Christopher Plummer just over his shoulder watching, like,
Yes.
yeah. I think it was a really good way to kickstart the movie, and I don't think that it's a peaked on the phone type thing, because there's a lot of stories I'm interested in seeing where they're going. Jack Lemmon, we feel really sorry for him. He's a down on his luck old man just trying to make that one last sale, and I hope he does.
Do you think he's a good salesman, or does he? Man, I'm thinking if this guy called me, and maybe that's why I'm not a lead, right? Like nobody would give my, but the way that he sounds on the phone, I'm like, you sound so fake. I wouldn't buy anything from you, And then he shows up, he comes across as a salesman, but like the stereotype of what you think of when you think of a salesman, like the slimy, like
he's Gil from The Simpsons.
Well, if you really what hot dog a sale.
I think maybe the read between the lines could be at one point in time he was a really good salesman, and when he would tell you back when there was like more honor and integrity in the game, but now it's people like Alec Baldwin, Blake, just talking about their cars and how much money they made last year. So maybe at one point in time he was, but yeah, now it's like Bob Newhart just stumbling through dialogue when he's trying to sell something.
Yep, he's the way that he was just begging for the Glengarry leads, and Christopher Plummer just takes him for a ride. In the end, like, nope, not gonna happen. I just, for some reason, I just can't feel too sorry for him, and I think that it's just that
I don't feel sorry for salesmen in many aspects of my life.
That's why I've had dealings with salespeople that are just as pushy and as sort of transparently manipulative as the people in this movie, and specifically Lemmon, because Lemmon is the one that we see trying to sell. Like we've seen Arkin and Harris are just driving around complaining about everything. And PACINO is not even talking about sales. PACINO is just talking about life. Lemmon has the misfortune of being the only one that's so far acting like a salesman, and I just don't like those people. So I'm not saying that I'm wishing ill on him. Obviously, he has a lot going on, and he's, like you said, down on his luck. But I don't have like that much sympathy. There was one time we just moved to this house, so this was like years ago, and this guy for ADT, the alarm companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knocked on the door, and Kelly was at work or something, and I opened, and he was Jack Lemmon, and he was like, "Oh, let me tell you, Sonny," and blah blah blah, and started talking to me, and I was like, "No, I'm not interested," and he would just keep going and keep going, and at some point he goes, "Well, don't you care about your kids?" And I said, "I don't have kids." Bye. And I said he could tell that he had that was it, that I think that was his last salvo, and it didn't work, and it changed completely. Like when I said, "I don't have kids, you can go now," and his face kind of like transformed, like he dropped the act of like, "Oh, I'm a salesman." And he said, "Do you want mine?"
That's
And
awesome.
yeah. And then he said, "That's all right. Do you know what's a good place to eat around here?" And he was just like a normal guy. I was like, "No, I don't know. I just moved here, man. Just have a good night." And he left. But that's what I was thinking when Jack Lemmon just walks into the house and takes his raincoat off and sits on the couch and props the little.
The
stuff
worst
over.
are like at Walmart and Best Buy, the Spectrum people, like
Yeah.
DirecTV. I'll even have my earbuds in, and they'll still be like. I've learned as far as door-to-door salesmen and saleswomen go, just saying you rent. Say, "I don't own the property, I rent," then they have no recourse. They're like, "Yeah, all right."
Well, can I talk to the guy that you rent from? Please.
They've tried that a few times, and I'm like, lives in another state.
Okay, so it was. I said I thought maybe they sold houses. They sell real estate,
Land, yeah.
ballpark. Yeah.
Well, they talk about in the beginning too. They sell houses. Alan Arkin was talking about he had someone on the hook for like he said like a 5-bedroom or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mainly like land they sell.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of real estate, and I don't think that the movie is interested in like breaking it down to where I'm supposed to follow it as an audience, right?
Mhm.
My note was like, I don't know what's going on, but I understand what's going on. It's like leads. Like I don't know specifically what you get when you get a lead, but obviously that's something that you can get good ones and you can get bad ones. They have the bad ones, they want the good ones. So I understand that part, right? And I understand that they need to hit their sales numbers in order to not be fired and so
Yeah.
on. Like I can get like the good and the bad, like the specifics of their scheme of the business, like that I don't understand, or like I'm not familiar with. But I wonder if you're a real estate person, like somebody that's into real estate, like does this movie hit you even
Is it
harder?
accurate? Is it a truthful telling of a day in the life of?
Yeah, is
Read
it
his
that
thing-
stressful? Really?
I imagine that's like the whole like everything about sales has never appealed to me. Or I guess I should say nothing about sales has ever appealed to me. But yeah, leads, I always think of The Office, that episode where Michael gets those leads and he accidentally throws them away and they have to go to the dump and try to find them.
Leads, they say leads here, the word leads, as much as they say
They say
fuck
the
in a
word
Tarantino
fuck.
movie. Yeah. How do you like David Mamet's dialogue? Because it's pretty distinctive.
Yeah, I'd be curious. It won the Pulitzer in '84, The Plague.
Jesus.
Yeah. So be curious, like his relation to the subject material, because it seems like if this isn't how real estate salesmen from the '80s really talk to each other, it's convincing enough that I believe that's how they talk to each other. Mamet, a lot of his filmography with me is, yeah, it was all right, that type of thing. But
Mhm.
this is definitely, in my opinion, of the stuff I've seen of his, a more passionate, and it feels like he's closer to the source material than some of the other stuff I've watched of his.
I think it's a lot more intense than what I've seen of his before. And I haven't seen a lot, but I've seen State and Play. I think it's comedy with Alec Baldwin and Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy. But that's a comedy.
Hmm.
And then I think it's Heist, his movie with Gene Hackman. And I've seen Red Belt and The Spanish Prisoner. Yeah, but the dialogue is kind of similar in all of them. But this is, I think, the cranked up version, right? Where it's just
Yeah.
like even it hits harder. But that idea of them repeating the same thing over and over, they'll talk about the leads and they kind of like talk in circles, but it still feels like you're moving forward. It's just that
Mhm.
that's not how people talk, but it's definitely how like David Mamet characters talk. I think it's consistent that way.
It like with this movie, it makes the people within this universe would talk that way. It makes
Hmm.
sense. It's
Yeah,
not Rob Zombie or Diablo Cody penning this.
yeah. My fear or the risk, I think, might be that you might not get as if what we're doing is talking, and like also for everything we've seen, it's just these characters talking. Like, how satisfying is it gonna be? Like when you get to the whatever the end is. What's the end game? Like they gave him a week to close, and then whoever is at the bottom gets fired. So somebody's getting fired no matter what. There's four of them, right? Yeah, there's four of them counting PACINO. Somebody's gonna get the top two spots, and then the other two I think get fired. That's the thing. And
The top spot gets a Cadillac a week, and second place gets some steak knives.
Yep. So I just don't know how it's gonna play. Like, we're about to get into the next. I don't know if it's the next morning or the end of the week that we're about to see. I'm assuming that if you were watching the play, maybe it's like end of Act 1 and this is the beginning of Act 2, maybe them coming back into the office or whatever's going to happen. But I guess I'm curious. I said risk, but no, it's really. I'm just curious to see how you're going to solve all this, assuming that it stays the way that it's been so far. Like how you solve it just with dialogue, because action wise, short of like somebody punching Christopher Plummer, like I don't think we're gonna see but maybe what we're gonna see is a character getting that Alec Baldwin moment from the beginning and just giving their version of that and giving somebody a dress down and reclaiming their dignity, because as salesmen they seem to have been stripped of that. So,
life of a salesman, that's what people want to see.
Before we get back to the movie, Alex, what do you think of that PACINO monologue discourse about what do you always remember? What do you remember about good sex? It's not the orgasm, it's the details.
It's definitely like, that could be analogous for a lot of things. I thought that was one of the best parts of writing so far in it. And of course, one of the greatest actors to ever live delivering it doesn't hurt the impact of it. But yeah, I kind of immediately understood what he was trying to say when he said that.
I liked it a lot just because it was no longer about real estate. We'd been hearing about real estate for like 30 minutes already, and that was fine. But I'm like, oh, somebody's talking about something else that also feels relatable, right? Like he's just talking about life. But I just like his character. I don't remember how he plays into the the second half, but I just like that while the other three are running around, he's just so chill because he's top dog. He's a top salesman, so he doesn't have to worry about this. And
he's got it in the bag.
Yeah, I'm gonna laugh really hard if Jonathan Pryce, if that was the extent of his role. Because at first I thought maybe he's a salesman, but he's just some guy that was there at the bar. And
I think he's his customer.
Oh, you think so? You think that he's selling?
Or
to him?
like he is now? Yeah, maybe not initially, but now he's talking him in.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how that pays off.
That would make more sense. All right, so let's get into it. 50 more minutes, and then we'll be back. And I found the message that Ben sent when he assigned us this, so we'll read that as well, so we can get a little bit more context. But that's it. 50 more minutes. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
Excellent.
That's over. Please, let's talk about you. I'm going to tell you something. Your life is your own.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
All right, we are back. It's over. Glengarry Glen Ross is in the rear view mirror for both of us. Alex texted me as the movie was coming to a close. Jack, no.
It was good twist there.
Yeah, I did not remember the twist. One of my notes was like, man, Harris and Arkin are really bad at this because they were acting so guilty. But it turns out that Arkin was innocent. So, I guess before we get into this, Alex, because we didn't do it in the previous segment, you want to just, I guess, summarize what Glengarry Glen Ross is about?
See if our friends at Google can help us out here. When an office full of New York City real estate salesmen is given the news that all but the top 2 will be fired at the end of the week, the atmosphere begins to heat up. Shelley Levine, Jack Lemmon, who has a sick daughter, does everything in his power to get better leads from his boss, John Williamson, Christopher Plummer, but to no avail. When his coworker Dave Moss, this is Ed Harris, comes up with a plan to steal leads, things get complicated for the tough-talking salesman.
Man, they don't even mention Pacino there.
And he's the only one that got an Oscar nomination for this.
Oh, he did? That's awesome.
He got an Oscar nomination and won an Academy Award that year, but it was for Best Actor. He won for Scent of a Woman, and then he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this. So he could have won 2 Oscars for 2 different roles. He beat out in the actor category Bob Downey Jr., Clint Eastwood, Stephen Rea, and Denzel Washington, and then he lost to Gene Hackman for Unforgiven, alongside Jack Nicholson for A Few Good Men, Jay Davidson, and our boy David Paymer for Mr. Saturday Night.
Man, eclectic
Yeah.
group.
All over the place.
It's a good year for Pacino. He's good. I mean, he's Pacino. This is a very Pacino performance.
This is unadulterated Pacino.
It's fine.
Pure.
It works. I give it to me.
No condom, just raw dog and Pacino here.
Just raw dog Pacino.
Everything he does in the third act with Jonathan Pryce.
Uh-huh.
The deal's dead. I want to know what's on your mind. Talk to me.
I think he's a better salesman than Lemmon. But if somebody was gonna get a nomination, honestly, I would have given it to Jack Lemmon. I think
He definitely has the tour de force performance.
Yep. The ups and downs that he goes through on that second half. Just, he's triumphant and then the bottom falls out. It's amazing. His face when Christopher Plummer is piecing things together, and he's just kind of like frozen halfway.
What are you talking about? And he's doing that thing where he's like,
Yep.
picking his teeth with his tongue, and then he's like, well, hold on now.
Come here.
I do love he finds like 3 places in the office to corner him before eventually Christopher Plummer's just like, I'm fucking ratting you out, dude. It's over.
Yeah.
And then the ending, of course, is he feels like he has a human relationship with Al Pacino, but then, wants to say goodbye or something before he goes and talks to the cops. But Pacino's too busy on his sales call. And I think in that moment, he just kind of realizes they're spokes on a wheel, cogs in a machine.
Yeah, but if somebody, I guess Ed Harris and Alan Arkin seem to have some sort of friendship. But I thought it was kind of sweet that Pacino, as much of a hard ass that he seemed to be, he seemed to have a soft spot for Lemmon. He kept calling him the machine, and at some point he says, "Yeah, like you taught me." So he saw him as some sort of mentor. He stands up for him when Harris is being an asshole, and he seemed when
Ed Harris could not have seemed any more guilty,
right? And I'm leaving. I'm going home.
Fuck you! I'm leaving because I want to.
When Jack Lemmon is giving his big speech the first time and just telling Christopher Plummer, fuck you, I sold all 8 units and blah blah blah, and I won new leads, and just gives him the whole speech. Cuts a promo, as you like to say.
There you go.
They keep cutting back to Pacino. Oh yeah,
there's 2 promos cut on Christopher Plummer.
Which one do you like best?
Pacino's. He uses the C word a few times, but also just talks about, he's basically whoever convinced you could work with men. That's great. I don't care whose nephew you are or whatever he says to him. Jack Lemmon, like, you can kind of tell halfway through it that, like, oh, he's not in the right. He's hiding something. Whereas Pacino is just like, you fucking moron. You don't know what you're doing.
With Jack Lemmon, I thought that there was something off, not on his side, but I thought that there was something off with the deal. And then it comes out that, he got bad leads, like really bad leads, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, Christopher Plummer tells him that they gave him the names of these people that are known for being
old
flakes.
Senile.
Yeah. So they set him up to fail to begin with. I was gonna say it seems counterproductive, but I guess they were trying to get rid of him. You just give the shit leads to to the guy that you want to get rid of, the really shit leads.
Yeah.
So when that came up, I was like, oh, so that's what was going on. But at the beginning, when he's really letting Christopher Plummer have it, they keep cutting back to close-ups of Pacino, just kind of enjoying the the machine going to town. And I was like, oh, that's cute. They have a connection. So, but you're right. I think that's my big question with the movie. Is it really just a portrayal of lost humanity? I mean, that's what we walk away with at the end. It's like there's no redemption for anybody. There's no redeeming qualities for anybody.
The opening with Alec Baldwin too is like basically the theme or the tone of his speech is that you are dispensable human beings. You're not invaluable. We can find other people to do this. I can do this, and he's just shy of saying we could train a monkey to do this. You guys are just stupid, and that's kind of what the movie shows. Is a good salesman is good at his job, and Al Pacino clearly is until someone screws it up who's inexperienced in the form of Christopher Plummer. But the end of the movie just shows that they are just fucking wind-up toys, man. And they're I don't know about the humanity side of it, but it's just like clockwork, that profession. They don't miss a beat. That's the end of the movie. Alan Arkin gets back on the phones and is like, my understanding is you showed interest in da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
So it's cynical, that's for sure.
Not a whole lot of hope for humanity from
Well,
David Mamet.
I hate to tell you what would happen in the 30 years that followed this, but I never had much of an interest in being a salesman in my life, and this movie definitely didn't make me think that I made a wrong choice along the way.
You've been driving a Cadillac, Alex. You just need to get to the top of that list.
Yeah. I'd be Jonathan Pryce, suit that doesn't fit me. Just, spending money I don't have.
He came back. I was, and you were right. You were 100% right. He was the client. He was selling. It was not just some random guy that he was talking to at the bar.
Worked hard by Ricky.
Yeah. His wife is not going to be happy. So this movie is, depending on the day, I guess, depending on his mood, is either number 1 or number 2 on Ben's top 10 of all time. Good
God. I don't know about that. Cover the basics here real quick. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, released on October 2nd of 1992. We already discussed, directed by James Foley, written by David Mamet based on his play from the previous decade. Budget of $12.5 million. It was a box office failure, grossing only $10.7 million in North America, but it has since become a cult classic, it says here. Which I don't know if these people know what cult classic means a lot of the time. I imagine with video sales and shit, it made its budget back. And it's, I think Ben might be a bit hyperbolic there, but I know this movie's legacy is one of celebration and like of ability of acting at a high level, what it can accomplish. And, Alec Baldwin has the Christopher Walken watch scene from Pulp Fiction. That's his turn at bat with this, or I guess because that came out after this, so you would say that Christopher Walken has the Alec Baldwin scene from Glengarry Glen Ross.
They even have a watch.
They do.
Each have a watch.
Costs more than your car.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, that's this is really good. I'm glad I crossed it off the list and I enjoyed it, and I think the acting is pretty exemplary. But number 1 and number 2, that's intense.
It's intense, but hey, 95% Rotten Tomatoes. I looked it up, and I actually, just to underline it, I pulled some of the quotes. Mark Robinson from Reno Gazette Journal says, one of the great American movies. And I'm like, yeah, I guess this feels very American in the sense that I'm sure that there's places like this and people like these and jobs like this one,
easily
all around the world. But
if you wanted to, you could make a parallel, or the flow chart could lead from this movie to The Social Network. You could say like this is kind of like a precursor to that. So, and I think The Social Network is one of the great American films, so I can understand that train of thought.
Number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
On the Alex Mattis list. But it's just the idea of these 5 actors taking turns being huge assholes. That feels very American.
Yeah.
So even Shelley, who you would think would be the most sympathetic, when he thinks he's on top, he really, I mean, Christopher Plummer is right. He has a big mouth, right? He could have just taken the win, maybe bragged a little bit,
He's
and
just
then
like down
pulled
on his
back.
luck and like this pathetic old man, but then he makes that sale and he comes into work the next day like he's fucking Muhammad Ali.
Yep. Yeah. Spider Darling from NY Rock says, a sharp look at the surreal world of real estate sales. And that took me back to what we were saying about like how accurate is this of a depiction of real estate sales, and is it really as nonstop brutal? I mean, I understand if Mamet decided to dramatize it in the sense of, they go out in the middle of the night. I don't care if it's raining. They have to close the deal from
I
one night to
don't
the
think
other.
that is accurate any longer. I would wager substantial money because of just the, uh, people in our age bracket really, by and large, can't afford homes, and boomers aren't really selling their land.
Yeah.
It's a whole problem. We're not here to discuss the housing crisis in America, but I'm curious if someone who's in the real estate industry today would watch this and think that it still rings true, or if things have changed so drastically that there's really no overlap any longer.
And I was about to say, do people even cold call anymore? And I guess they do. I mean, I just don't answer, right?
Mhm.
Like, I just caller ID. If I don't know the person, I just don't answer. But are there people still answering the phone? Because I was thinking, you get emails today, and those also just go
Yeah,
straight into the spam folder. So I don't know.
or mail, something in the mail.
Yeah, that
Hey,
also, I don't, just goes straight into the trash.
right in the fire pile.
Steve Warren from Southern Voice Atlanta says Glengarry Glen Ross picks you up and throws you against a wall. Then it holds you there for 90 minutes. That may not sound like a good time, but it's damn good filmmaking.
I could fuck with saying that this movie's like a bully. Bullies you.
It's like Alec Baldwin at the beginning.
Yeah.
Beats you to submission.
You want to see your kids? Fuck you.
It is definitely a lot livelier than I remembered. The first time I watched it, I remember what I alluded to in the second segment, and I didn't want to plant it into your head too much because I didn't want to influence how you were going to experience the second half of the movie. But my recollection, the first time I watched it, was like, it never gets as good as it gets with Baldwin, and that's not right, or at least it's not right this time that I watched it. I think that it hits those peaks again with Lemmon and with PACINO for sure. But the first time I watched it, I just remember thinking, all right, they're talking a lot, but when are they going to do something? And
when are they going to get to the real estate sale?
yeah. I want to see them sign some contracts. I mean, the robbery takes place, I guess, off screen, but that's part of the point. Quentin Crisp, we're going to close with Quentin Crisp from Christopher Street, who says, I recommend Glengarry to all of you, but do not hope to leave the cinema with the last vestige of your faith in human nature still intact.
Fair.
Yeah. But at the same time, I understand why they are the way they are. And I think it's a shame that they are part of the system that has driven them to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But
Capitalism.
I think it's a little harsher if you are following the journey of somebody that you identify with very closely and that you have hopes for, and then that character ends up failing, right? The way that Jack Lemmon fails in this movie. Like we discussed in the previous segment, I was never all in with Lemmon. To me, it was just like, oh, he's a salesman.
Yeah.
And so
we were talking about, it's kind of hard to garner sympathy or empathy for him.
Yeah, I found it more heartbreaking. I don't know what this is about me or the movie, but I found it more heartbreaking when PACINO's deal fell through. When Christopher Plummer opens his mouth and ruins, like, he was almost there. That's objectively wrong, right? Like, I should be rooting for Jonathan Pryce to get his money back. Like the guy that got bamboozled, and suddenly he's got buyer's remorse and he has 3 days to get it back.
You cash the check? Don't follow me.
He's like, God, that Mamet dialogue. I know we mentioned it in the when we came back at the halfway point and just a repetition, but I think it went into overdrive, and I loved it. He's like, I know what you mean. 3 days. Don't count Saturday. I'm not counting Saturday, but don't count Saturday. It just keeps going
What's
back and
today?
forth.
What is today? The
Yeah.
check hasn't been cashed.
Well, it's scumbag. It's,
No joke.
yeah, it's good stuff. I am curious, and Ben, let us know. Just send us an email, hit us up on Twitter, on the Patreon chat, whatever. I want to know what, because I can't fathom anybody putting it that high on their list, like one or two,
Oh,
unless you have a very deep personal connection with
yeah.
the characters or the themes or something. And I don't have that, right? So what is it, Ben? Were you ever in sales? Or do you know real estate salespeople, or have you seen the play? I
Was Jack
think
Lemmon your uncle?
I think that if you've seen this on stage, like it must be, assuming that you have a cast that can carry it, it must be amazing.
Yeah, for real.
And then you see the movie, I'm like, well, this is as good as it's gonna get on the big screen. So maybe that. But I'm curious, Ben, and anybody else that loves this movie. I want to hear if there's just something else that I'm missing as far as how to connect with the material, because I am in awe of the performances and I find the dialogue very, very fun. But then when it's over, I'm like, yeah, man, that was rough. And then I can just go on with my day. Like, the story of Glengarry Glen Ross is not going to haunt me the way that
No.
even something like you mentioned, The Social Network, right? Like that haunts me in a way, because I can see, I think that the potential for good, I can see it there, and then I can see how it all turns sour. There's something to the friendship between Andrew Garfield and Jesse Eisenberg. There's something that
Was
relationship.
your only friend.
Yeah. Uh,
Very good. This is a very good, would be a very good background movie. If you're cleaning or editing or something, just throwing this on in the background. Taking breaks for like the big monologues that you want to see. But yeah, what an easy watch. It fucking flew by for me.
Yep.
Obviously, Ben is a man after my own heart, selecting a movie that's less than 2 hours, specifically closer to the 90-minute mark. So big ups on that. Very easy watch. Good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I'm bumping it up. I mean, from what I thought Glengarry Glen Ross was to now that I've experienced it again, older, more jaded. I think that maybe that's why I like it more
Wiser.
too. Yeah. What's your score, Alex?
B plus. There wasn't really anything that I would critique per se and say like this could have been better. It's just one of those movies that not everything that is good has to be like a 100% A plus blow your socks off type movie. I just think it's a really, really good movie. B plus would be my rating, which would translate probably like 4 stars when I log it on Letterboxd. What about you?
That's gonna be my score, 4 stars. I think that before I could have told you like maybe 3.5. I really enjoyed it more this time. Ben said do your worst, and I guess I'm gonna have to disappoint both of us, or disappointing him,
Yeah.
in the sense that there's not a whole lot that we can really be mean about.
Dave Moss, though, the Ed Harris character, needs to know how to pull off inconspicuous nature a little bit better.
He talked such a big game in the first half, and then just completely fell to pieces in the second one. I was like, is he trying to get caught?
There's like I forget. There's a Simpsons where Bart and Milhouse do something at the church that like might be when Bart replaces the hymns or whatever. The joke is like Milhouse cracks immediately, like Reverend Lovejoy pulls all the kids and like I know one of y'all did this, and so if you did, repeat after me. And it's like they start this line of if I lie, I go to hell, and then Milhouse is like Bart did it, that Bart right there, and that's basically what Ed Harris is doing in this, except he had like a giant neon sign above his head that said guilty party with the arrow pointing down.
Yeah. Anyway, great performances, Ben. This is our worst. We liked it a lot. It was a really easy watch. I guess the worst I can say is that they would not be on my top 10. Probably
I guess
top 50.
our worst is that it wouldn't. I don't see this cracking my top 200 movies or anything like that. But it was a fun watch.
Yeah,
it's the Contrarian seal of approval.
Yeah, I will say this because I know he made a video a while back where he was talking about his top 10, and I know he talked about Glengarry Glen Ross, and I know he's on the record saying that he likes movies that are dialogue driven. So
That makes sense.
that would be part of it. But still, I need to watch that video again, I guess, and really just see if there's something like a key that unlocks the mystery of why you would love this so much. But like I said, we don't just have to hear from Ben. We'd love to hear from any of you, anybody that somehow stumbled upon this video because they searched Glengarry Glen Ross. What a weird search, by the way, but so be it. Anyway, that's it for this dual QVR. We'll have another one probably a couple months. Like I said, we're alternating now with the regular ones. But check out the podcast, check out our Patreon channel, check out our YouTube channel, do all the things. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Take care.
That summer of 19